Hi all, welcome to this Play the Month November guide for the 5 leagues that have Play the Month cards still to due, because obviously the Eredivisie dropped with Sankar and I was actually having him in my prediction with like Tadic and Haller and so forth. But regardless folks, hopefully you find this all useful. Could be a good month for Player of the Month, so time will tell. If you smash like so, we much appreciate. Sub to the channel if you're new, follow me on Twitter at JSLegend. All links are down below for posting the channel and social media links as always. Comment down below who you think could get Player of the Month and so forth. We will start off with Bundesliga being quite a contentious one. People will have Hoffman down as like a given, but I've done a bit of digging. I'd always like to do relying on Kicker. Kicker gave Hoffman a free for the month. He only had one good game. Stindl, same applies, he was a 3.25. Modeste and Frimpong both in the 2.83 bracket as an average, but Frimpong was most consistent, and then Modeste kind of the same. Bibu is a kicker rating of 3 for the month, and Rutter is a kicker rating of 2.5 for the month. So that's how, as a result, you think potentially Rutter. Now, it is worth noting that I'm only going by kicker. Obviously the vote is not live yet. The award should roughly come out for the 17th of December, if not before, because of when it's like the winter break and also all the other factors as well. So it might kick in just before the 17th, because the vote's not live yet, so they might go live say Monday with an earlier release date. But Frimpong would be 82, Rutter 81, BB 86, Modeste 82, Hoffman and Stindl would both be 87. Rutter would actually be a significant boost, because he's going from a silver to a low gold, whereas Frimpong's going from a high silver to a low gold. And if it actually boosted right, Frimpong could actually be a fun little card, even for an 82 rated. But at the moment, for what digging I have done on the Bundesliga, Frimpong and Rutter seem the most viable. Rutter was actually Player of the Week one of the weeks as well, so, and same for Hoffman, but Hoffman had the same, like one game where he had like a 5, it was like high max ratings. For Liga, should be a 3-horse race between Depay, Vinicius Jr. and Griezmann. Question of which one gets the nod. Vinicius Jr. seems most likely, obviously is an 86 rated card, which is going to be interesting because that isn't, they're not deeming it, I think, performance upgrade, but they have went 85, 86, so maybe in Vinicius Jr.'s case, then he's putting one for his 88, so it is going to be an interesting one. It's either going to be 87 or 88, and it's going to be near enough these kind of stats. Depay and Griezmann both have one to watches and informs, so that's how that works off on that regards. Obviously the one to watches will not experience upgrades, but obviously the Player of the Months are a decent jump up from the ones to watches. So you've got to think to yourself, if Depay or Griezmann were to suddenly happen, you would have to say to yourself, could Depay or Griezmann get 2 informs by the time they get to 80? The way Vinicius Jr. is playing, there is room, because you would say there's 2 informs, but in Vinicius Jr.'s case, I would actually say you might have to even wait for Team of the Season to come before he potentially could exceed the 88 rating, but he will not be cheap. The way he's been playing and the way the price of his Team of Group Stage card is, would not surprise me if this is like 800 to a million coins, and if honest, it could be an expensive month for a couple of leagues. Mbappe, pretty academic for League, and Thomasan is the only other real viable shout in the whole league. Like Strasbourg have been very impressive in the month, I will not deny, but Mbappe kind of head and shoulders above everybody when you break down the stats, and Mbappe's playing what's going to happen. It's just a case of how much it's going to cost. Last year he had a left wing version. The year before he was before the pandemic, his month was not given. I think they just voided that month, so it was like it was like ain't happening, because it was like one card I was desperately wanting for my team and it didn't happen. But Mbappe isn't going to be cheap. It's going to be it's solely going to be interesting because we genuinely do not know what they will cost. Because this card would like Ligue is possibly going to be nearer, not necessarily Christmas, but like the week before. But like the earliest one we would imagine is Premier is going to be La Liga, which should be maybe say Thursday or Friday, like Wednesday to Friday. First release, Premier League being Friday. Serie A could be Wednesday, Friday as well. Then so that's 3 you've got by the end of the week. Bundesliga and Ligue could be like next week, like the following week, sorry. But the Prem is very up for debate. Like Trent or Bernardo Silva seem the most viable. I think if Aston Villa had a bit better form before Gerrard came in, if they'd won like their first game or whatever in the month, then. But McGinn's been very, very impressive, because normally I would have been delighted that McGinn could win a card, but sadly Alexander-Arnold and Bernardo Silva seem the most viable in the month. And the way they're kind of pushing the Bernardo Silva narrative, I think he might nick it over Trent. But Jota would be 86 because his numbers up card is not performance related. Dennis would be 85 because his base card is 74. The Silver Star inform that he bagged would have made him an 80 rated if he was not in Silver Stars, and then 2 inform boosts from there would put him to 85. Cancelo would be 89 because of the inform is an 87, and that's how that kind of works out. So we'll see what happens. I think Bernardo is the one people would like, because Trent's play of the month could be a little bit more expensive, and if honest, not as expensive as these rule breakers, but just not as desirable, like whereas Bernardo might. So it's going to be a toss of a coin between them both. You've also got to remember that, as I say, Trent's rule breakers is what people would rather have in their team, and I think Bernardo, the way he's been playing lately, is he's going to get informed sooner or later, but could he get 2 informs? It's definitely up for debate, so it would be one of these cards worth doing. Serie A is an interesting one because people will have Pasalic as a lock, or even Bonucci as a lock. Now, Gazzetta ratings for the month: Hakan Calhanoglu is a 7, same for Pasalic, Bonucci and Berardi. Zapata is the only one with a consistent 7.5 for the month, and on that basis, and also even then, when you kind of break it down, Bonucci was on the bench for 1 game, and like that's where it kind of goes against Bonucci, because if you've been on the bench for 1 game and form's not been great for Juventus, it's hard to justify. Like Zapata, for me, when you break down like the goals, the assists, the form, Zapata deserves it the most. He's been the most consistent in that, and like from a lot of the predictions I've seen, they've all got Pasalic or Bonucci as the card. Like even then, Calhanoglu's been great for Inter for the month, Berardi's been great for the month, but deep down I'm still of the universal decision that Zapata will get it. That's where I'm looking at, and the question is how much will he cost, because he's not really the most desirable card from a pace shooting physical perspective. You'd literally just put Hawk on him, or in fact you could probably put Hunter and it would make him desirable, but deep down he is where I think they will go with the Serie A play of the month. I think that's what they will kind of edge towards. So for play of the month, I'm thinking Zapata for Serie A, Frimpong or Rutter for Bundesliga, despite what some others might go for. La Liga, I'm kind of leaning towards Vinicius Jr. Premier League is at the moment probably Bernardo Silva, just maybe edging over Trent, but it's going to be tight nonetheless. And then Ligue is going to be Mbappe. So the 2 expensive ones, probably Ligue and La Liga, then the Prem, with Serie A and Bundesliga kind of being relatively cheap. You've also got to remember foot freeze. If there's lots of cards there that are desirable, you've got to factor in a lot of these cards in as well. Then it makes you say, is this SBC worth doing over that? So there's going to be a lot of SBCs to kind of get our teeth into. Let me know, folks, in the comments down below who you think could get a Player of the Month SBC. Smash links always, sub to the channel for new, follow me on Twitter, G the Legend, and I will catch you all later, folks.